He just wanna roll up. He been trying to pull up, trying to get down with me, trying to be down for me.
What's up, y'all? Another episode of the Rapper Cat Podcast. I'm your host, Mike the Young OG. I got a special guest with me today, Miss Maya Eliza. So go ahead and introduce yourself. Let us know what you're about.
I'm Maya Eliza. Most people just call me Maya. I'm into the whole music thing, going back, hanging with my boy Mike here, just talking about some real interesting stuff, mental health and how everything affects, us as African Americans. I really love the topic, so that's why I'm here. We're going to talk about all that.
Appreciate it. You just dropped a new single, right?
I did. Vibe With Me, featuring my cousin Duggar, is out right now on all platforms. Make sure you get that. If you don't, you whack.
Oh. Okay. I see y'all whack if y'all get that single.
For real though, definitely, look me up, Maya Eliza. I'm on all platforms. Let me know how y'all feeling.
For sure, go stream that everywhere. So, jumping right into this mental health topic. When was the first time? Because just some background information for y'all. Maya also reached out because she was talking about the stress and anxiety piece of it all, and I really feel like that gets a bad rap. Like, it just sounds bad when you say, oh yeah, I got anxiety. But just kind of, share with everybody, like you share with me, like how anxiety can literally come from like the smallest things and flare up from smallest things.
So I guess a little background on the story. So I didn't know I had anxiety until I was about 20 years old, but I had my first bout of it senior year of high school. So I think my very first panic attack, I didn't really know I was having a panic attack. It was more like my whole world just froze. Like, I couldn't move. I felt like I couldn't breathe, and it was like a hot second. I don't even remember what initially set me off, but it was definitely very scary feeling, and then it just went away. And that was my first bout with it. And then in about 2016, I got into a really bad car accident. And I was really afraid to drive. And I would see an accident driving and get really tense. And I would start sweating. I would feel like I'm panicking, like I'm back in that spot again. So I went to the doctor, which people frown upon because they're just like, why are you going to the doctor? Because you freaked out about driving. No, I could crash my car. Freaked me out about driving. So I was like, I need to talk to someone about this. And my doctor was just like, I think you should go talk to someone like a counselor or someone like a psychologist or somebody that can kind of lead you in the right direction. So they thought I had PTSD from the accident, which was crazy, but it can happen. It happens to a lot of people. And so I was like, okay, well, maybe I got PTSD and this will blow over or something. I get there, and the first day she's asked me all these questions like, have you experienced anything traumatic in your life? Have you have ever had someone sexually assault you? Or just all these crazy questions. And it was just whoa, what does this have to do with PTSD? We'll kind of find out I didn't have PTSD. I had anxiety, obviously. But it was what do you mean? She was like, well, there's different forms of it. And there's also that you got to realize too, anxiety is normal. Because it's part of your fight or flight. If something is happening around you, your body's going to respond. Do I need to run away? Do I need to hide? Do I need to fight back? It's normal. It's abnormal when your fight or flight response is kicking in when you don't need it to. So that was my problem. It was kicking in when it wasn't necessary. And so things would just set me off out of nowhere. And so once I figured that out, we started going through the steps of how to suppress it or how to take care of it. And another thing people shy away from too is I actually took medication for my anxiety. I was on an anti-anxiety medication, which is almost like taking an antidepressant. It's really weird getting you on it, and it's weird getting off of it. I would have days I would have cry spells. I would just start crying for no reason. Nothing would happen. I'll be in the car driving and all of a sudden cry. I'll be at work or something and I'm just I feel like crying. And even though crying is cleansing for the soul is what my counselor used to say. it was still like, this is unnecessary.
Yeah.
So it was like, I'm just sitting there like a grown woman just bawling out, crying out of freaking nowhere. And I'm just like, I can't do that. So then just with the whole like anxiety thing, I got to the point where it's just like, this is debilitating. Like, I couldn't go about my work day sometimes. There was days I didn't want to go to work. There was days I didn't want to go to school. Like, I was just like, I didn't want to deal with it, because I felt like it was definitely hindering me from doing a lot of stuff. It messed with my self-confidence, because I felt like I couldn't go talk in front of people, or I couldn't go talk to people because I felt like something was wrong with me, or I felt weak. But ultimately, going through the process of handling my anxiety, I realized that like that was what's going to make you stronger. When you start facing your weaknesses, that can make you stronger. You already have strengths in other things. Yeah, you can perfect them all you want, but if you don't perfect your weaknesses, you're not going to get to a point where you feel strong in what you're doing. Yeah. So with the whole anxiety thing, once, I started counseling, whatever, my very next panic attack was so bad that like I hyperventilated. I felt like my heart, this was in sleeping, okay? This was in my sleep, okay? Something crazy had happened that night. I don't know if like me and a family member had gotten into an argument or something. I think it was me and my younger brother got into an argument, of course. But like, it set me off that bad that the night I went to sleep, I woke up in the middle of the night and I'm just like, why does it feel like I could like hear my heart beating? We call that like heart palpitations. That's if something's that's what it's technically called, if there's something wrong with your heart. But you can feel like your heart beating, or you can hear it like in your head, And I was just like, why can I hear my heart beating? Like, this is scary. Then I started sweating and I'm like, it's not even hot in here. Like, it's freezing cold in my room probably all the time. And I'm just like, what is going on? Like, I'm freaking out. This is like 3:00 in the morning, and I started breathing really hard. And then like after that, I don't really remember what happened. I just remember waking up and my mom and my dad were in my room, like trying to get me to wake up. And ultimately I had passed out from hyperventilating. The next day I went to the doctor, and I'm laughing because it's just like, most people kind of get the misconstrued that when you have anxiety, it's just like, oh, you just freak out, you'll be all right, this is the third. Like, no, you really feel like you're about to die. Like, I really felt like that night I was about to die. Like, something was seriously wrong with my heart and I was about to die. And I get to the doctor, and she gives me an EKG, which checks the rhythm of your heart. And they're like, oh, it's normal. And I'm like, how? What do you mean it's normal? Like, I had chest pains, I passed out sweating. She was just like, I think you had a panic attack. And I'm just like, in my sleep? And she was like, it can happen. And I'm just like, okay, so how do we stop that from ever happening again? Because that was very scary. I think like 2 weeks later I went to counseling, and I told her about it, and she was just like, yeah. So me and I had to change the course of action of how we do stuff. So instead of making me do all these modules and read all this stuff, she started having me do like meditation. I'm a firm believer in the man upstairs, so prayer is a form of meditation. I started praying more, just starting to be more self-aware of how I was feeling. And I think that's a way of combating anxiety, is just being more self-aware, making sure that you understand that you're in a safe spot. And even when you're not, you're going to react the way you need to. But when you are, you got to understand, like, your body has to understand, and you're okay. Yeah. So that was like the biggest thing, like with anxiety. And it definitely has taught me a lot of stuff about myself. It definitely teaches you what you don't tolerate well, things that like set you off. Because I know you were saying like there's some things that like can set you off, just like me. Like I'm not really good with like sudden change, and I'm in healthcare, so someone can suddenly change right there in front of me, and I'm just like, so how do I can adapt to that? But I mean, like sudden change that's impacting my life almost. I'm not really good with stuff like that, but that's my little backstory on anxiety.
Okay, so you said a lot of great things, but like one thing that stuck out to me was the being self-aware. So like for you, how do you remain like self-aware of how you're feeling at times?
So if I have a situation happen and I know, like when I know my anxiety's bothering me, so I'll get like a weird feeling, and I can describe this feeling to people as if like, say you're going down a hill or you're going like in a roller coaster and you're at the very top of the roller coaster, you hit the really big hill before the whole thing starts. That stomach feeling you get, imagine that but stuck. Yeah. And it's so annoying that it actually starts to hurt. It's just like, oh my God, like this is super annoying. So when I feel that come on now that I'm more self-aware and I know that's linked to my anxiety, I'm like, you know what? Stop what you're doing. Take a deep breath. Remind yourself like, hey, you're okay. Like, let's just get through whatever this is and this too shall pass. But you got to make sure, like, I have to keep telling myself, like, you're okay. You're okay. You're okay. Like, it's okay. Like, you know, and it's a lot, for me, it's a lot of like stuff being out of my control. Like, I can't fix it immediately. I just have to go with it. So for me, it's different for everyone. Like I said, I'm into music. So one thing I'll do too, if I start to feel like worked up, if I'm in the car or I'm by myself, I'll start singing. I'll literally turn on music and start singing. I'll sing something that will cause me to scream to the top of my lungs like Christina Aguilera. I'll play gospel music. I'll play country music. If I really want to get out and get loose with it, I will play some Screamo. I really will.
I'm so weak.
But it's anything to help kind of release that anxiety, and mostly like music definitely does help me a lot. And then just taking a deep breather for a couple seconds, take some time to yourself. But you got to learn what self-awareness is. Like, that's definitely something that's practiced. You don't just get that overnight. You don't wake up and be like, oh my God, I'm super aware of everything going on around me. No, it's a learned behavior for sure.
So it's like, for you, do you feel like it's like, it's the little things that kind of end up being the big things, or is it like that really big thing?
Perfect example of that. So when I shot my first music video for Angles, the day of, like, everything was going smooth, like, and I was in charge of a lot of stuff. It was weird. Like, I had built my own sets. I had someone do my makeup that day, so me and her were already running behind. I hate being behind. I hate being late. Like, I don't like stuff like that. I'm a very prompt person, so I felt terrible if people were behind. But this whole thing was happening, and originally my photographer, my cousin was supposed to be my photographer, but he ended up having to work that day. So I had to get someone else, and this someone else did not tell me they were going to charge me until the day of. Now, mind you, we had the conversation like a couple days before, but it was the simple fact that everything was going super smooth that day and everything was lined up, and then boom, I'm like, where did this even come from? And it's very little. It wasn't like I couldn't afford to pay him. It was just all of a sudden, it was like, I need you to do this. And I'm just like, wait, whoa, that was not part of the plan. And it was very minute, but that flipped my entire mood for like 2.5 hours. Like, right up until it was time to start filming, I was just like, I was pissed. I was really upset the whole day. And I was just like, why am I so angry? Like, why am I so worked up? I was already worked up because, like I said, I'm going to be in a music video and I'm in charge of a lot of stuff. But like, that really like set me off. And it'd be the smallest of things. And I don't quite understand that part about my anxiety yet, but it's definitely be like really small things now. It used to be bigger situations, but like I've definitely I'm more adaptable in bigger situations now, so it doesn't really bother me. But then like the smaller ones, like definitely just try to put me over the top sometimes. I don't go into full blown like, oh my God, panic attack, but I definitely go into like this anxiety of like, why did you just do that? Like, why is this happening? Stuff like that. So
yeah, I think for me it's definitely the little things, and it sounds really bratish to say, but it's kind of reality. Like, it's literally like when it's stuff not in my control that happened, and I'm like, I can't do nothing about it. And now like I gotta figure this out. And I'm like, normally I got the answer, but for this I really don't have the answer. So I gotta go find the answer, or I gotta wait to see what happens. Like, that's the anxiety and the anxiousness that I feel. And
it's that moment, it's like my counselor had told me, she was like, everything's not gonna be in your control. And that's one thing we have to understand. It's not saying like I'm a controlling person. It's just that I'm very prompt. Like I said, I like stuff to be one way, and if it isn't that way, I'm not gonna always have a meltdown because I'm just like, oh, it can't happen. But sudden change, I don't do well. And so just not being able to control that in that very moment, it's like, and I will say, if I can't control it in that very moment, it does feel very good. But I still have the anxiety that comes with it even changing in the first place. It's super annoying.
I feel like, you know what I'm saying, like, and that's a normal feeling that you're talking about. Like, it just has different evolutions, and it has different like forms of it. So, you know what I'm saying, like, whenever you do feel like anxiety or when some things are not in your control, like, you know, a lot of people will be like, oh snap, like you immediately want to get that stability, like you want to get that safe feeling back. So it's a normal feeling for everybody. We just all deal with it
differently,
and, you know what I'm saying,
handle it differently. Especially like if you have anxiety and you know you have anxiety, your way of reacting to something may be very extreme compared to someone else reacting. And that's a lot of the thing. Like, I don't really like to tell the story about anxiety to everybody because not everybody's going to understand. Like, even explaining it to my mother, like the one day I explained it to her, my mom literally almost slipped up and tried to say, oh, well, it's not that bad. And then she stopped and she was just like, well, you know what? I don't really completely understand what you're going through.
Yeah.
But, you know, all I can do is just be like, it's going to be okay and help you calm down. But they don't understand that, like, this is a major thing for me when it really isn't a major thing at all. And in my mind, I know it's not that big, but, like, I react as if it's, like, it's huge. And it's a part of anxiety for sure.
Yeah, I feel like, you know what I'm saying, even not to even change the topic, but I feel like everybody has stress and anxiety because it's like, you know what I'm saying, whenever somebody says something to you that kind of, you know, triggers an emotion out of you, that right there makes you anxious because it's like, don't make me feel what I felt then, you know what I'm saying? And
I feel like, you know, back to your whole point of this whole podcast, as African Americans, you know, we come from a background of like, already systemic racism, suppression, all types of just stuff that would make you anxious. So if an officer was to walk up to you and I, instantly, we're going to get anxious because of what has happened in the past. But it's still a matter of, if it's like someone with me, like me, suffering from anxiety, there is a moment in time and big issues when I can think things through. But I'm still very much so worked up. And it takes time for me to come back down from that as well. So, but it's definitely like, we have to understand as African Americans that once you have some sort of mental health issue, address it first. Like, make sure you're doing the steps and taking the steps to better and help yourself. Because if you can help yourself, eventually you can help your other fellow African Americans as well. Because like, you know, I've definitely been in a situation where I've taken my knowledge of anxiety and help someone else with anxiety. Multiple people. I have a really close friend that deals with it. They'll literally call me and be like, so am I having a heart attack? And I'm like, probably not. But if you really feel like you got pain in your arm and stuff, go to the hospital. And they'll go and they're perfectly fine. And it's like, it happens. Like, but you have to understand, like, you got to understand it doesn't make you a weaker person because you got all these things going on. It's a big stigma around mental health anyway for the African American community. And it's just like, you got to understand, like, you got to understand what's going on with you so you can understand everyone else is what I'm basically trying to say.
Like, and stress takes a different toll on everybody's body. So like, some people might feel stuff in their arm. Some people get headaches. Some people like get sleepy. Some people just feel like tired. Like, so it's just a different way that stress affects everybody and anxiety affects everybody. So for people to look at it and be like, well, that's just crazy, or why are you so worked up over this? It's like, you don't understand because you're not in my position, but I could be in your position and I might not understand why you have anxiety over like somebody. I know my mom doesn't like when people drive in her blind spot. Drives her crazy. It's like, she's like, bruh, move. Like, she'll literally like slow down and like wait, or she'll speed up and go, but she doesn't like anybody driving in her blind spot. And I'm like, I get that, you know what I'm saying? Like, I get that more now that I'm driving. It's like, now that I experienced it and you see like how accidents can be started, you just kind of like, all right, cool, like, I understand that.
Exactly. But and that's the thing for her, like, that's a form of anxiety, that's a form of anxiousness. And luckily for her, it's only when it's in the car. But see, like, for people with like maybe anxiety or something, and it could just be someone standing too close to them in line. I mean, we're in social distancing and all this stuff. I literally will freak out if somebody's like right up on me now, because I'm just like, COVID. COVID. Like, 6 feet is not where you standing right now.
For sure.
And that would like set me off. Like, and it would never be that way. And I'll tell you, like, another big thing with mental health in general and COVID. One thing about COVID I learned, so I didn't tell this part yet, but my anxiety from the time I figured out to about 2018, so that's about a 3-4 year stretch, I did ended up getting it under control to where I didn't have a panic attack for about a year and a half straight. And the one I did have was very mild. I kind of knew what was going on. I just said, you know what, I need to take a break. You know, I went to the car, got myself together. It took me about 20 minutes and I was fine. But, you know, I wasn't on medication at the time. I wasn't going to counseling. Like, everything I learned to help bring myself back down, I had used. But see, then COVID happened. and a lot of people don't understand that, if you've had mental health issues, then you know exactly what I'm talking about when I said when COVID happened. Because I was perfectly fine until like March of last year, which is the beginning of lockdown here in Virginia. And I was like, why do I feel like I did several years ago when I first found out I had anxiety? Like, what is going on? Like, you told somebody who's always worked up to stop what they're doing. And I did that. But then you tell me to stop what I'm doing and then go right back to what I was doing. Yeah. That is considered sudden change. I mean, even though I knew my day I was going back to class, it was still like, oh my God, I'm going back to class again. Extreme to extreme. Yeah, that's extreme to extreme, back to extreme, which is supposed to be normal. Yeah. You know, and if you don't recognize that you had issues before, like I did, and I knew that, okay, this is my anxiety, and this is just because COVID has flipped everything, our daily lives, our daily everything upside down, completely upside down. That sudden change really affected me. But imagine the people who suffer with depression. Yeah. Or people who have issues with being isolated. People who were social butterflies and now they're isolated. That impacts you in so many ways. So another big thing with COVID was it was a disease of the mind too. Like, this is something that has affected, you can't see your family, you can't see your friends, you know, you can only see your loved ones. If you had a grandparent, you couldn't really go see them at all because they were at the highest risk. And it's like, what do you do? And your body's like, what am I supposed to do right now? I can't really function. You can't go nowhere. You can't go nowhere. And then even if you wanted to go talk to someone, you couldn't even get into a doctor's office because they weren't there. You know, they were doing stuff like on camera and stuff, and that's not the same. Like a Zoom meeting with your counselor is not the same as being there, sitting there in a room, and it's like a one-on-one conversation. So with COVID happening, that definitely set my anxiety off again. Yeah. And it took a minute to get it back under control. I will be honest, sometimes I still don't have total control over it like I did in the past. But now I definitely got to the point I'm just like, I'm not going to let it stop what I'm doing. Not like I did the first time. Yeah. But I had to, and the point I'm trying to make is because I knew I could identify it. But if you don't know, how are you going to be able to identify it? Yeah.
Yeah, I think, you know what I'm saying, backtracking a little bit to, you know what I'm saying, people being in tight spaces, the claustrophobia is really like a form of anxiety, form of all that. Like a lot of people, and like you said, like with COVID being here, it's that 6 feet, like people are, like they've drilled that in people's heads, so now people are like you're looking over or something. Man, I went to Philly last month. I went to Philly and we were in Zara, in one of the biggest malls in the United States, in King of Prussia. And we're in Zara, and this dude is literally like almost as close to me as you are. So I'm like, that's a no-no. So I keep looking back at him, and I'm like, all right, maybe as the line moves up, like we'll all spread out. So I move up a little bit with my homeboys with me. We move up a little bit. He moves up, still at the same distance. So I lose it. I'm like, yo, move back 6 feet, my guy. Like you're.
That is definitely like your anxiety just saying, I can't take it more.
He's literally he's looking at me like,
why did you?
And then he just like steps back. I'm like, bruh, I don't want you anywhere near me. Like that drives me up a wall.
COVID has caused us to be in our bubbles heavy, and like imagine if you're like okay with that. Well, this didn't really affect you as much as it was somebody like me, where I'm just like, oh my gosh, I love to be around people, I love to talk, da 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 da. And now I'm just like, yo, bro, you standing way too close to me in line right now at the food line. I'm gonna need you to back up. Yeah, You just went from, like you said, one extreme to another. Like you invading people's space when. Now I'm gonna say invading people's space because now standing up on me is a thing. Like that's an issue. But now that 6 feet is there, it's like what's so hard to follow the rule? Like you know, people really get. I mean, we've seen plenty of videos on all social media of people getting really, really worked up about it. Like, yo, back up, bro. Luckily, this person that you were dealing with was just like, oh shoot, my bad. There are other people's where it's just like, after that, it's a full blown argument after that, you know. But like, that's the thing. Like I said with COVID, it impacts so much. And I mean, even me personally, definitely just dealing with anxiety. Like, I get in a grocery store and I get worked up now because it's just like all these people in one spot. Like, no, COVID, you might have COVID, and now you're giving it to him because you don't have a mask on, or just, oh my God, it's so much that could deal with, like, that just stems for me back to my mental health issue that I'm working through. But like I said, imagine if you don't know.
Yeah.
You know, imagine if you don't know that you have a fear of tight spaces. Imagine if you don't know that you're suffering with depression. You know, how do you get to that point where, like, okay, now that I know, what do I do? Like, how do you even get to the point of how do I know?
Yeah.
You know?
And the key thing is, like, for people who are, like, introverted and people who are extroverted, like, it's two different types of people.
For sure.
I'm definitely an introvert, but I like to,
really? What?
And I really like to go out and do stuff.
I would never imagine that.
I love, like, my, like, bubble, my space. Like, I don't really venture out.
I feel you on that.
But you know what I'm saying? When I do go out, I like to go out and have fun. But like,
there's a moment in time that's like,
so every day I have my routine or whatever. So I come home, whatever. I go to the gym, hoop, whatever. Come home, I'm in my bubble for the rest of the night. I get a shower, whatever. Then that's like all taken away. So immediately, like, I can't hoop. I'm already distraught. So I'm like, we can't
I can't go outside. I can't go shoot the basketball. Like,
we can't go hoop. It's automatically a dub for the year. So
then that's crazy because it's just like that's a very little thing.
Yeah. So for me, it was just like.
But then okay. So that's the thing that we have to understand too is if you don't necessarily, I guess, suffer with anxiety. And I'm not saying that your situation is lesser than mine. I would never say that because everybody's is different, especially with anxiety. You not being able to hoop is like, dang, like my whole day's messed up. It may be easier for you to find something else to do.
Yeah,
or it may be easier for you to be like, okay, well, what's the next thing? If that was me, I'd have been like, bruh, I'm done. Like, I can't do nothing. I can't do nothing. If I can't hoop, I can't do nothing. Like, you know, and that's another thing. Like, exercise is a form of like therapy. And they always talk about how exercise is good for your body. It gets all the good hormones and juices flowing to make you all happy and stuff. And I'm like, if you can't do that, what's your alternative? Luckily for you, you probably can find an alternative. I can't. I'm like, what do I?
Looking at the alternative.
And like you were talking about it earlier, like people get really sleepy when they get stressed out, or they get really hyped up, or they're just like kind of frantic or whatever. Like, I mean, I don't really just shut down and be like, oh, I'm going to sleep. Mine is just like kind of sitting there just twiddling my thumbs. Like, what do I do now? Like, normally this whole hour and a half, for me, I play softball. So like this whole 2-hour stretch, I normally be playing softball. But it's freaking raining outside. So I can't go do nothing. And I'm just like, what am I going to do? Twiddling my fingers. Like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Freeze out. It's so funny. But then again, being able to say, what's the next thing is good. Because that means that, now mind you, everybody has anxiety. We all, like I said, it's a fight or flight response, and everybody gets a little worked up about something. It's normal. I would be afraid if you didn't get worked up about change that bothered you. That's scary. Something else is going on, obviously. But with the fact that you can change, the change happens and you find something else to do, is good. Now that's something I had to learn how to do because of anxiety. Like, I had to figure out, like, okay, I can't do that no more. I can't go play softball. So what's the next best thing? Like, what can I go do? I would go figure out. I mean, I would literally, everything could be clean. The car could be clean. Everything could be done. And you would still have to find something else to do. So mine ended up being songwriting. That's what I started doing to help. You know, it would make me upset that I couldn't just actually physically like go record right then and there. But it still was something to take my mind off the fact that I just suffered through this extreme change of not going to play softball or going to go hoop. Like, you know, that would definitely mess up, especially in a routine. Like, that's a control thing. That's back to a control thing. Like, this is part of what I do every single day. And now, boom, you didn't chalked out the best part of my day. Like, how do I adapt, kind of thing. My thing
was just being restricted. So like, I can't go do what I want to do when I want to go do it. Like, for me, automatically that's just a thing for me in general. So I'm like, I can't do that. Like, I don't even have the option to do that. All right, cool. Like, I'm already upset. But then, like you said, I was really about to get into it, the routine. Like, I'm a very routine-oriented person. So once my routine is broken, I'm not in a shambles, but I'm shook. So it takes me a while to figure it out. And if it takes me longer than expected, I'm distraught.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I'm distraught. So for me, like, it was just that piece in COVID. It was just like, you're not waking up, going to work, getting off, going to the gym, come home, eat, shower, watching the games. Like, no, you waking up, you go take a shower, but you go figure it out the rest of the day. Like, you know what I'm saying?
I got to the point where I woke up and be like, what am I going to do today? Like, what am I going to do today? Like, what is there to do? Nothing. Maybe I'll just go outside or something. You know, like, I literally, and that was like, most people look at like quarantine as a blessing. Like, oh, I get to slow down. This is the third. It was very weird to me. Like, I mean, even now, I had the last like 3 days off, going on the 4th day, and I'm just like, I literally sat in the house like, my mom's like, what's wrong with you? It's like, I just don't know what to do with all this time. Like, this is not normal for me to be sitting still for this long of a period of time. So, and that's another reason why my anxiety just resurfaced again, because it was like my daily routine got flipped all the way upside down. I mean, like, I never took online classes because I knew I'm a really big procrastinator. I'm gonna put stuff off sometimes. I don't like to do it, but I will be honest, like, sometimes I'll put stuff off and I'm just like, you know what, like, we'll just do this another day. But so, like, I never took online classes because I was the one that would be up the night before, know the paper is due at 11:59, and I just started it at 10:30. You know, like, and so so putting me in online classes was like a big no-no. Like, that really scared me because I was like, man, I'm gonna freaking fail X-ray school. Like, what in the world? Like, if I don't get my ish together, I'm gonna fail X-ray school. So it's definitely that switching and adapting definitely played like a huge role in anxiety for me. Like, even thinking about it now, it's just like, wow, like, everybody got their world flipped upside down, but somebody with anxiety, definitely, their whole life feels shook up right now, for sure.
Yeah, like, and like you said, like, a lot of people took quarantine as blessings, and, you know what I'm saying, as I don't want to say a curse, but like, it was hard for them. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, I think it had both. Like, we're still in it. We're not where we were in the beginning.
Of course.
Yeah, it was both. It was more so like, because now I'm like, I don't know what to do. And now, you know what I'm saying, now that we're getting a little bit more normal, even though somehow numbers are still going, we're getting to be a little bit more normalized. It's like, okay, like, when I don't got to wear a mask no more, what am I going to do? Like, that's what I'm thinking now. I'm like, what's going to happen now?
Like, I definitely it's funny because, like, I love to do makeup. And I would get to my lips and I'll be like, what's the point?
Yeah.
What's the point?
Literally,
like,
it's coming off.
Like, I know the ladies can relate. It's just like, it's either going to come off on the mask, I'm going to take it off, and it's going to be like on my chin or somewhere else on my face. And I'm going to be like, it's pointless. Like, I got to the point where I would just not do my lips because I know I'm going to have a mask on. And then working in healthcare, it's like, we kind of know this is going to be, the mask thing is definitely going to be around for a long time. It's definitely going to be around because it works. Like, we know it works. This is why they make us do it. Like, you know, I don't care what everybody says and the Thomas mask don't work, blah, blah, blah. It works. Trust me. Because we could have got all types of other things before COVID if masks didn't actually work. Yeah. So, but it definitely, like, we're going to be wearing those for a long time for sure. You got to get used to that. And it's such an annoying feeling on the face.
Yeah, it's crazy to say though. Like, I'm still not used to it. Like, I'm really still not used to it. Like, I'll come out my car and I'll be like, man, I gotta hurry up and run in Walmart. And then I step outside, I'm like, whoo!
Do you know how many people I would see like that? Like, you'll just be sitting in the car and looking. I'm like, oh, there she goes. She running back to the car because she forgot her mask.
Plenty of times.
So many people. I guess I've gotten in the habit now, but like, there are definitely times where I'm just like, I'm walking in the store, get halfway to the door, and I'm like, God, dog. And I parked in the back of the parking lot.
Yeah, and I'd be like, man, not only do I gotta walk, but I got COVID now. Like,
like, there's so much going on. I have to go back to my car and get my mask now. Like, oh my gosh. But I think, like, I guess, like, the main takeaway I kind of want to get to you with this is, like, when me and your series, you were talking about, like, mental health is in our bloodline and stuff. And it is. Like, and I don't think a lot of people understand how that part works. Is anxiety is a mental health disorder. And the one I have is general anxiety disorder. It's called GED, basically. And I mean GAD, sorry. And or GAD for short is what I've heard the doctor say multiple times. Super weird. But there are different mental health. You got schizophrenia, you got bipolarism. I mean, you got all types of stuff. And it runs in our bloodline. That doesn't mean that my parents had some gene in them and all of a sudden I had anxiety. No, that's not how it works. Now, there are some that are hereditary, like schizophrenia is considered almost hereditary. It could definitely skip a generation and affect someone else. But in my family, I may have a cousin over here that has something, and I might have an aunt over there that might have something, but it's in our family. You know, it's there, and it goes back to the stuff that our ancestors dealt with. I mean, PTSD is going to be the top thing. I mean, we were literally put the fear of God in us back, way back then, through slavery, civil rights movement. We've been through a lot as people. So mental health is bound to be in our bloodline. The issue we're facing now is identifying it and doing what you need to do to stop it, to help yourself. A lot of people, I'm learning, like African American people, they don't know how to identify what's wrong with them. They would just be like, oh, no, I'm a thug through it. I don't know how many times I've heard people say, I'm going to just thug through it. I'm like, stop trying to thug through it. Like, it's not cool. Like, because you over here spazzing out on people when really all you need to do is go talk to someone so they can help you about spazzing out, because that's not normal. You know? And we really have to get to the point where eliminate the stigma. Like, it's okay to go get help. Like, it's okay to go talk to someone. Now, nobody's saying that you have to take medication. For me, I didn't immediately start taking medication. I was like, I ain't taking pills. Like, what's wrong with you? I'm not that messed up. But it got to the point where I was like, okay, maybe I should try this. This might help me. And it doesn't mean that everybody has to take medication for their mental health issue. It doesn't mean that you have to go automatically see someone, but at least acknowledge and identify what's going on with you. Because at that point, that's just going to be the first step into helping you get better. And believe it or not, like, once you learn, that's the one thing about us is like, when we learn something, we're really good about teaching everyone else around us about what's going on. And that's why I was like, I guess learning about my anxiety allowed me to help other people, because it's a crazy story. But one day I had went to this Waffle House. I had a kid with Waffle House. It was really weird. I was just eating Waffle House all the time.
I love
but I've never been to this particular Waffle House. Like, I never go out there. Like, it was all the way out in the country somewhere after a softball game. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to just go get this Waffle House, whatever. I get in there, and I walk in, and the lady's like, oh, we're closed. I said, it's Waffle House. What you mean y'all closed? Y'all ain't closed. And it's her. And then at the end of the, they got a little bar in Waffle House. At the end of the bar is a young lady. She's sitting down. She works there. And her friends are in there. All of a sudden I hear is, girl, are you okay? And I'm like, healthcare mode. I'm about to kick in healthcare mode. Like, just walk out the door. I kept telling myself, just walk out the door. And it was like calling her name. She wasn't responding. And I'm just like, is she okay? And nobody answered me. And I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna have to walk over here and see, because I could be the person to determine, like, maybe you should go to the hospital because of my knowledge and just basic healthcare, okay? I walk over to her and I'm like, what's wrong? Is something wrong with your friend? And it was like, oh, I think she's having an anxiety attack. I was like, wow. How crazy is it that I walked in here knowing exactly what she's going through and knowing almost how to help her? I literally went over to this girl. First off, she was sweating, so I knew she was sweating, and she was like alert of what's going on, but she just really couldn't like do anything. And I asked her friends, I was like, does she have a history like anxiety or type? They're like, yeah, this happens all the time, but it's never been this bad. So that's when I was like, well, maybe something else is going on. I mean, it's COVID out here, so you never really know. So I was like trying to get as much information as I could before I even like went to go talk to her. So I went up to her and told her, I was like, hey, this is just basic first aid. Be like, hey, like, my name is such and such. I'm here to help you. Is that okay? She could like just nod her head a little bit. I was like, what's going on? She was like, I think I'm having a panic attack. And after that, it started to get worse. That's how I know it started to get worse. And I was just like, okay. So some people, like I tell you, you'll freeze. So she was really locked up. So I was like, okay, well, the first thing I'm about to get you to do is, first off, you're sweating. So she had on a lot of clothes. I literally had to get her to take off her do-rag. Her little doobie braids were showing. I felt bad. I felt bad for her because I'm like, sis, like, I know you don't want to be out here like this, but this is going to keep you from falling out on the floor and us actually having to send you to the hospital. So I had to take off her little do-rag. I made her take off her work shirt. I had her friends take off her shoes. Like, anything to help her cool down. then I started, like, I would do this thing, like, with me, like, if I ever locked up, I would have to kind of force myself to move. And it's little motions at first, and you turn them into, like, bigger motions. So pretty much I took this girl's arms, and I was, like, trying to pull her apart, basically. And she started to loosen up. And then I had to talk to her, and I was like, listen, like, I know exactly what you're going through. Like, I have panic attacks all the time. You know, I'm here to tell you that you're going to be fine. Like, you have to tell yourself you're okay. That's why I told you when I get into that mode of, like, anxiety, I have to stop and say, you're okay. Like, you're okay. And I literally had to explain to this chick, like, you're okay. And even if, in my mind, I was like, even if she's not, you're still in a point where if something seriously is going wrong with you, oh, we're going to know when you calm down. For sure. So she definitely got to the point where she was just like, she couldn't really talk to me or whatever. And then once I noticed she stopped sweating after a couple minutes, I was like, okay. I said, what's your name? And she told me her name, and I was just like, okay. And I started addressing her by her name. I was like, listen, you're going to be fine. Like, I just need you to breathe right now. And because she started to breathe funny. That's the part that really scared me, because I'm like, okay, maybe something else is going on with you. And I said, do you feel like your chest is hurting? Do you feel like you can't breathe? What's going on? And she was just like, it just feels like I feel really stuffy and really hot. And I was like, oh, shoot, she's talking to me. And I said, so you realize you're talking to me now, right? And she was like, oh my God, I didn't even know. And then she asked me my name again. And then she was like, can I hug you? And I was like, oh shit, it's COVID. But yeah, I was like, sure, why not? So like, I was like, yeah, that's fine. And I just told her, I was like, listen, like, I don't care what anybody else has told you. This is a third about whatever you got going on. You need to talk to someone. I said, because this right here, like I've been here. This is a part of anxiety that's debilitating. That stops you from doing, if it's stopping you from doing your daily life, anything, any mental health situation, you need to see somebody, period. You need to go talk to someone, because you don't want it to hinder you from doing what you've been doing on a regular basis. And I told her, I was like, you don't have to take medicine. Nobody's telling you to go namaste, meditate or nothing, but you do need to go talk to someone. And she's like, okay. It was so funny because her friends was like, my tox is tough. I would have told her to go smoke. I was like, don't go do that, because that's gonna make it worse. Like, people think it's gonna make it better. I was like, don't do this. Just take the rest of the night, breathe or whatever. And she was just like, okay. And she calmed down, and everybody was like thanking me like I did something. And I was like, I mean, I just understood what she's going through. They did it, and you could tell they did it, because everybody was just kind of looking at her like not knowing what was wrong. And it was like, I mean, her friends knew she had anxiety. They just didn't know how to help her. And that's another thing. Like, some of my friends that know me, they know how to help me because I've taught them how to help me. But I haven't gotten to the point around anybody in a very long time to, you know, they would have to help me. I can help myself. But there was a point in time where I couldn't. You know, and she was in that point in time where she couldn't. And so that's why I said it's really good for us as African Americans. Like, once you know, or just even if you're in like the psychology major, stuff like that, they know these things. They learn these things. So they know how to help people. And I know a lot of people who go in, especially African Americans that go into like HBCUs, they all have like degrees in psychology. It's, for some reason, learning the brain is a thing. Shout out to y'all. It wasn't for me. But, you know, they know. So like, take that knowledge and help each other. Like, I think that's really why I'm like, I was so passionate about it. I was like, yo, like, I definitely have to talk to Mike about this. Like, this is crazy, because it's like, I really want people to understand, like, yo, like, we can help each other. We definitely can help each other, but we gotta help ourselves too. So if you suffering with like mental health or anything, I really advise you to go talk to somebody.
Get out of the denial stage too.
Definitely.
That's really what it is. Like, we don't want to admit as humans and really as black people that we need help, or that we can't do something on our own, because we've been trained to think that way. But in reality, we all need help in some form or fashion. So if you feel like, you know what I'm saying, you experience any type of stress and anxiety, or you feel any type of way your body is doing something that it normally wouldn't do under certain conditions, it don't even got to be stress and anxiety. It could be anything. Like, go get checked out. Go talk to somebody. Like, we all need like somebody who's like mutual and doesn't know everything about us and doesn't know every little thing to give us like honest feedback or whatever. Like, go talk to your pastor. Go talk to whoever it is. Like, mentors, pastors. Yeah, get funnel all that stuff that you have inside of you out, because the longer that you hold it, the more that it filters into unhealthy areas, and it causes your body to react to certain things. So the energy that you once had at 25, you might not have at 26, and that's being like realistic. Like, it hits people different ways, and talk about your trauma, man. Like, do not let that stuff sit.
That is a big thing. Like, people don't.
Yeah.
They don't. People and people experience trauma and they let that overtake what they're trying to do, like what you're trying to accomplish. When ultimately, you don't have to do that. And trauma is in any form. We're not saying that you had to get into a bad car accident like me to figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
Or we're not saying that you had to go through some sort of sexual assault or, you know, you got beaten as a kid. We're not saying on those extremes. Any form of trauma, breaking up, having a bad breakup is a form of trauma.
For sure.
Losing a family member or just, you know, severing a friendship is a form of trauma. There are so many forms of trauma. So we don't recognize it. But, I mean, having a bad breakup does not feel good.
Yeah.
You know, losing a friend does not feel good. That's a form of trauma. And we don't know how to gauge how we feel about something because we're so busy upset about the situation. But it's like, when is it going to get to that point where, you know, is this negatively affecting me way more?
Yeah.
You know, so definitely got to handle like the trauma situation because like, don't keep it all locked in.
Yeah.
Don't keep it all locked in because that's exactly what I did. I kept a lot of stuff locked in and I didn't say much about it. And ultimately I would worry about stuff and it manifests itself as anxiety. Exactly.
And on top of all, like she said, you really gotta like just sit there and think like, oh, how is being a breakup traumatic? Like, we gotta really like reach out to our friends during like I ain't gonna say breakup season, but you know, during like breakups or whatever, because you know, we're at the stage in life, and even people were in the stage in life in high school, like where relationships not last in a couple weeks. Like relationships don't last a couple months no more. Like, they be like years in. So like you taking a certain amount of time, all this time, 365 days times 5, like whatever that number is. I'm not good at math. So you taking all that time to really get to know somebody and to like to go through things with somebody and to share yourself with somebody, and then boom, it's all gone. It's changed. Like, that's traumatic for people. That's from extreme to extreme. So we really just gotta understand that and understand that holding in trauma and going through trauma, like, it could flare up something that's in your family. And I count family as, you know what I'm saying, when you join, like your parents join together, like you got their family and your family, and they had you. Now that's in your bloodline. Like, now you share a whole different family, and you share whoever that family joined with and whoever that family joined with, and it goes off like that. That's why I say, and I've been really harping on it, the mental health problems do run in our bloodline, like, because we're all so connected. If we're not all connected as one, we're all so connected, and trauma just flares up and shows itself in different ways and causes things that we didn't even know were connected to our family to show up in a different form. And then we say, oh no, it was just literally this. I'm like, nah, like, you could trace that back a little bit more if you wanted to. Like, your parents might not have it, and you said it the best way possible. It can skip generations. Just like twins in people's families skip generations, like just like height skips generations. It definitely can skip generations because it's hereditary and because it's so genetic. So for real, like, I'm definitely pushing like the mental health field in the aspect of going to talk to somebody. If you like she said, you don't have to have medication to go on there. You just have to have self-awareness, like Maya said, and really diagnose yourself. Like, you don't got to be like, okay, I'm depressed, but you can easily say like, something is wrong with me. Something is wrong with me. That's the only thing that you have to admit, and it doesn't have to be to anybody but whoever you go talk to. And then once you get to a place, share your story and push that. Like, really do that. And
that's why I guess, like, coming on here, like, talking about it, I was at a point where, like, I never wanted to talk about it. You know, like I said, facing your weaknesses definitely can make you stronger, because I used to feel super, like, weak. Like, I used to feel like I'm not woman enough. I'm not built for this. Like, my self-confidence decreased. All types of stuff happened because I did not handle my anxiety the way I should have when it first started to manifest itself, because I didn't know.
Yeah.
And then when I did know, I was, you know, we had, like you said earlier, the denial stage. I was like, ain't nothing wrong with me. Like, nah. But then it definitely got to the point where it was debilitating. Like, I was like, I'm not built for this. When ultimately I am. And I'm fine.
Exactly.
But, you know, we definitely have to acknowledge what's going on with us. And once you acknowledge, you know, I'll tell anybody, you have to make that decision yourself. I can't force you to go see someone. Mike can't force you to go see someone. But at the same time, you know, if you know you got something going on, it does not hurt to talk to someone about it. Not meaning that you have to initially be like, okay, I'm jumping straight into counseling, blah, blah, blah. There's so many ways to get this thing done, y'all. But you have to want it. And we can't be judgmental of each other because someone else is going through stuff. Because I hate to say it as black folks, we're really good about that.
Yeah, we make a joke out of it.
Yeah, we really good about, oh, he crazy, blah, blah, blah. And we're like, no, bro, like, he seriously got something going on. And once we realize that about each other, once it's time for us to act on something that we need, we can do it in unity. Because we understand each other.
Yep.
You know, today I watched a video of the gentleman that got killed in California. I think it was California. He was a homeless man for jaywalking.
Yeah.
He got shot. And they said that he had all these mental health issues. And I'm just like, see, if we understood as ourselves or as people, it would be, maybe the situation could have been handled differently. Because they know something. And I think he was like schizophrenia, which is on the serious side. I mean, we're talking paranoia to a max. Like, they're always on go. So it's stuff like that, like, we have to be aware of in ourselves too, because that can make a very big impact on how it affects us as a whole community. You know, if we know we got it in there, and we know we got anxiety, schizophrenia, bipolarism, all types of stuff that are in our community, and we understand each other, we can better help each other in the long run, at least. You know, nothing short term, nothing's overnight. Just like you're not going to figure out, oh, you're going to wake up and be like, oh, I'm depressed. Oh, no, it's going to work itself in there.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to be like, you're going to notice, even if you don't notice, someone else might notice, hey, like, you're not really doing what you used to do, and this is the third. Take that as shot, like, you know.
And it can come and go. It can come in spurts. Like, it could be a day here, you're good for like a couple months, then it's really bad for a week, then it's really bad for a day. Like, you know what I'm saying? It can come and go. So don't just look at it as, you know, and I'm not telling anybody either to have a bad day and be like, yep, that's it, I'm depressed, or like that's what it is. Like, no, not for real. Like, it could literally just be you had a bad day. But, you know what I'm saying, take yourself serious. Don't ever play yourself.
That's that part of being self-aware.
Yeah, always be self-aware.
Having too many bad days, obviously, at that point in time, like, why am I having so many bad days?
Yeah.
That's the part of being self-aware.
We got to self-analyze ourselves, like, because we're always changing, we're always moving, we're always doing something as humans. Even if, you know what I'm saying, you just laying in the bed all day, like, you still doing something. Like, you still, what are you doing when you laying in the bed? Like, you scrolling on your phone, you watching TV, like, you looking out the window wishing outside would open up. Like, you know what I'm saying? We all do different things. So it's important that we just continue to just be aware of ourselves and not be on the run so much that we just gloss over it or take it as, oh yeah, well, I did wake up at 8 today and I went to bed at 2. Like, yeah, that might be it. But, you know what I'm saying? Always double check to be sure. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's my piece on anxiety.
Appreciate Maya Eliza for coming on here, you know what I'm saying? And we can follow you on Instagram
at _ Maya Eliza. That's MayaEliza _
Alright, this is another episode of the Rapper Cat Podcast. I'm your host, Mike the Ngo G. You can follow me on Instagram, sounds just like it's spelled. You can follow the page at Rapper Cat Podcast. It's RAPORCAP Podcast. If you're following on Twitter, remove the T, add the 1. And, you know, like this video, share this video, push it. Like, share with everybody you know, your mamas, your aunties, your TTs.
Because everybody needs to know this.
For sure.
Everybody needs to know this. Like,
everybody needs to know this.
This is very important for African American community. We need to know. Like, this mental health thing is no joke in our community. So it's really good for everybody to know. So definitely make sure y'all give my boy some love here.
Appreciate it.
You know, make sure you share this video. I'm gonna share it, you know, not just because of me, but it's the simple fact that you're really touching on like a really good topic.
Appreciate it. For sure. So y'all tell us if we rapping the cabin. We out.